While just outside the city of Houston, Cy-Fair was still considered more rural than suburban. In 1971, Cy-Fair was placed into what was arguably the toughest 4A district in the state. The Bobcats held their own, posting a record of 35 wins and 6 losses on their way to a state championship. For Coach Truitt, the '71 Bobcats team was a reminder of his own high school playing career. In 1954, as a senior forward at Milan High School in Indiana, Ronnie Truitt led his team on a miracle run to become the smallest school to ever win the all-around championship in Indiana. The 1971 Cy-Fair Bobcats were not aware of Coach Truitt's high school exploits until 1986, when the Milan Indians run was immortalized in the greatest high school basketball movie of all time, Hoosiers. These are the memories of some of the boys who became men under the coaching of Ronnie Truitt.
Ronnie Truitt grew up in Milan, Indiana. His high school coach was a new coach, fresh out of college, came with newfangled ways from Butler University, and they started running a different style of offense and defense. He looked at their talent level and their abilities and designed an offense and defense that maximized that. Early in the season, not so successful. It was new. He had to get them playing by his plan. But in 1953, they went to the state playoffs and made it all the way to Butler, but did not win it all. In 54, they did win it all.
Going down, John shoots from the circle, scores! Now let's take it again, baby!
Someone heard the story and made a movie about it. It became Hoosiers.
As a basketball player, he was a real steady player. You could count on him. You knew he was going to be there. He was going to get everything done. He was a very good rebounder, and he could score whenever the occasion was available. He was an integral part of why we won the 1954 state championship.
Very fictional story, but they got right the effect of a winning basketball team in a very small town. They ran a four-corner offense because they were against a very good team. Truitt usually was one of the higher scoring players on the team, but when he knew that the team would be delaying and holding the ball, he said, I don't want the ball. I'm going to get in the corner and keep the rebounders down there with me. When you get your defensive player away from the play, you've helped the whole team. That strategy came all the way to Cy-Fair. Ronnie Truitt went to college at the University of Houston. He played on Guy Lewis's first U of H team. He was not a star on that team by any means, but he got to watch a really good coach work at that level. He had a military career with the U.S. Army, became an officer. Ronnie's father-in-law turned out to be a real mentor. They were very close. They were close like father and son. And you just know from the way Truitt treated us as athletes, what kind of a learner he was. A man who can maintain authority knows how to be submissive to authority. That's what he learned from Lewis. He learned from the military. He learned from his father-in-law. He learned from his coach. And those things all shaped him as the kind of coach he was. He coached at Jackson Junior High in Houston as his first coaching job. His second one was at Black Junior High up in the Heights of Houston. And there he met Ken Pridgeon. The two of them had known each other from the University of Houston, where Ken played football. Ken was at Cy-Fair as the new football head coach. He followed Bridget to Cy-Fair, and the basketball program was handed off to him by Carlos Watkins, who was principal at Cy-Fair.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
The move from a segregated school system near an urban center, but clearly a rural area at that time, came through the lens of my father,
Roy Metcalf.
He was a school administrator, and while he was principal at Cy-Fair High School in the mid-60s, the handwriting was on the wall that integration was coming, especially with equal rights amendment happening under Lyndon Johnson's administration.
Let us close the springs of racial poison. Let us lay aside irrelevant differences and make our nation whole.
The administration was informing leadership in the district, start thinking about how you're going to blend these districts. There was a fantastic principal over at Carbondale High School, Dr. Batts, who was a former professor in education college level, former athlete himself, and a pastor of a good size black church in the Carbondale community. And he was principal, and my father was principal. And they came up with plans to present to the superintendent and then on to the school board, yada, yada, yada. Angry phone calls coming to the house, threats coming to my dad, all that stuff. Yeah, that did happen, but it was pretty well cushioned by the administration and not by the student bodies.
When they came over in '68, Carbondale and Cy-Fair merged together and we played basketball.
Dr. Batts' wisdom was the first students to go to Cy-Fair need to be from strong families with high academic abilities, and it will not hurt if they can help you win some things in sports.
Once you start playing, you don't realize the color. You just realize the character.
What I can say I got from Truitt was how to win.
While Cy-Fair had some excellent athletes in the past, they had not really platformed any champions.
Coach Truitt took the athletes and he solved the racial problem by winners. Us being winners, there weren't any problems. So we were taught to play together and win, and that's what we did.
And it didn't matter what color you were, you could trust him.
Yes.
I mean, he was like the only adult I trusted at that time.
He was disciplined. He taught us how to play as a team. He taught us how to play together. He taught us how to get along together.
It was run and shoot over there.
Yeah.
It was control
Right.
ball.
That was
Yeah.
Coach Truitt's style. You don't shoot unless you're open.
Unless you're open, way open. Yeah,
It was no one-on-one, you know.
none of that.
Coach Truitt, in the locker room, in his office, in the corridors of Cy-Fair High School, was quiet and expected you not to be at the center of trouble in the hallways. He was going to be a disciplined guy if teachers sent us back to him. If you were mouthing off to a referee, the referee didn't kick you out, he'd pull you out. He didn't let it fester on the floor. And he would give you a dressing down about it, but his dressing downs were very politically correct before that was a thing, you know. He set an example for other teachers and coaches of the way you should act around adolescents. And other teachers and coaches could learn from that style because all he did was produce, the best that this team is going to be able to produce.
It really wasn't that big of a change. You adapt. And just like any decent player, if you want to, have a cohesive team, you have to adapt.
Of course, we didn't have the athletes to play the style being played by Coach Johnson over at Carbondale. Coach Johnson did some scouting. He could walk into any gym in Houston, and they were used to seeing him, and he could be scouting for Cy-Fair, and they didn't immediately put those two things together. But the junior high coaches turned into part of the scouting plan for scouting all these teams around Houston that we might run into. So Truitt knew the opponents every game, and he game planned for each. On his office wall, he had a free throw shooting board with each of our names carved into a piece of bronze and little hatchets on it. And it was a free throw ladder. You were assigned to go find the guy that's above you and challenge him, and you have to take the challenge from the guy below you, and if you don't challenge, you lose your place. So we shot free throws every day.
And at the end of the season, whoever made the most free throws consistently would get a trophy.
When Coach Truitt would prepare us for battle as our officer, he knew his sergeant on the floor. Often that was Ronnie Dunlap. He was the floor general. No one ever took the ball away from Ronnie Dunlap. It was not possible. He was the best point guard in the city of Houston. But when we needed an enforcer, we had a big man, Jerry Mercer, who was 6'8", played defensive end and offensive end, ran the 400, shot put and distance. He was a monster. And the chemistry between those two, they played together for 3 years under Truitt. When they were immature, they sometimes would push on each other and grade on each other. But they fell in love with the idea of, we're going to do this thing together. And then Red Dunlap was added to the mix the next year.
Coach Truitt, he was calm, cool.
He real calm.
He wasn't the holler type guy. He didn't holler. You know, he just made his point.
He didn't yell at us on the floor. I mean, just normal stuff. Switch to 31, that kind of stuff. That happened, but never deriding us for a mistake. That wasn't his style.
I've seen him maybe get upset maybe a couple of times, lagging in practice. And that was not to be tolerated. And he would let you, he just stop. Everybody stop, come in. And everybody get a blessing right now.
Sometimes I got the feeling that Truitt let us go undisciplined against some teams because our speed and athleticism against their failure to adjust to it would just kill the other team. And there's nothing like getting a crowd behind you when you start stealing balls and making layup after layup. Truitt didn't try to stop that, but he let us beat a team that was headed to the playoffs. We were a strong team. Physically, we could take a pounding from a rough team, or we could dish it out if we'd have wanted to, but we were smoother than that. We were poised and rugged. We had full weight systems, and our football players were developing as more well-rounded, physical trained athletes. So training came first. The new system by Truitt was pushed down into the junior highs. We started with skill development. We ran every day. Our running could be accomplished in our scrimmaging and in our running the press, breaking a press, because breaking a press meant more than just dribbling and short passes. We played it like it was an open game football. And on every rebound, somebody was breaking long and deep. And Mercer and I were taught, bring it down, turn, look for the deep man. If he's not open, outlet pass, cutter across, outlet pass, and immediately into trying to score quick. We would work on all of our presses every day. Coach Truitt would tell us which press with a color chart. He had a board that on one side was divided four ways, four corners of white, maroon, black, and red, I think. And on the other side, green and yellow, blue, on three pieces, one all the way across two corners. So he had 7 different colors to choose from. And he would name our presses by the colors. And he would tell us during our pregame meeting, tonight we'll be giving signals with my right hand. If it's in my right hand, it'll be on your left, my right. That's what we're running. If I'm holding it in the other hand or holding it like this in 2 hands, ignore it. This.
The leaders of the team, which were the leaders of the group we were in, they kind of assisted Truitt in setting that atmosphere.
You know, workouts without coach, you work on your moves, your spins, and your dribbling, and can I actually get by this guy just with a dribble? Our summer conditioning, he could not go with us. He would provide rides for the guys from Carbondale that didn't have cars. Jerry and I would ride together. We'd go out to Rice University. We'd go out there and play against college and pro athletes. And you had to work to get on the floor with them. And Jerry and Ronald and Donald, they'd pick up somebody from Willie's group, and they'd start beating these college athletes that were playing at the University of Houston. And once they started beating them, they knew we're going to keep coming here. We're not going to get better unless we play with these guys. And if we can beat these guys, there's nobody in Houston we can't beat. 1969, 1970, we had a big team. Our 68-69 junior varsity team went undefeated. The average height of that team was 6'4". And all of those big guys went up to the varsity at the same time as in 69-70. So it was a good team coming up. And Larry Matthews was an incredibly mature point guard who had led us to a 9-1 season in football. And now he is ready to turn that into basketball. Give us 2 weeks, get our legs changed from football to basketball. We were a junior-dominated team, not a senior-dominated team. So what does a talented, inexperienced guy do when the pressure's on against experienced guys? They try to take it on their back and win it all by themselves. And that was a mistake. We should have kept pounding it into Jerry and make Tybee cover him and get them in foul trouble. But as it was, our junior forwards started trying to shoot us into the game. Instead, they shot us out of the game.
My thing was, I felt like we had a disappointing season because we didn't win it all, and it was right there for us to win it all, and we let it get away from us.
You cry when you should have won it at the last second, but when you know you're going to get beat and it starts being apparent third quarter, how can we sneak out of here? That's kind of the way we felt. We weren't ready to force Kerrville Tybee to stop Jerry Mercer. Mercer could have made the difference in that game, and we had too many others that tried to put it on their shoulders. But the next year, whatever the coach told us to do, we were more in tune to do.
When we got ready to leave, we said we'll be back.
Truitt pointed out, here are the things we could do in the future in that kind of situation that we didn't execute and we didn't do. That'll come. We're not going to let that happen again. We're going back. We're going to win it all this year. He didn't say that week after week after week. He said it one time. He didn't change his mind, so he didn't need to say it again. We knew we had the athletes and the experience and the group will that we won't get beat by anybody. We went into the 1970-71 season feeling that we were going to surprise every big school we played, that we have already played at a higher level than they have, and they're going to have to look out for us the rest of the season.
Talent is one thing, but you experience is something else.
The Wheatley Wildcats came over from Prairie View Interscholastic League in the Houston School District.
We played Wheatley in a basketball tournament up in Dallas or something.
Yeah, up in Dallas.
They had a trio of players every year in 68, 69, and 70. That trio of players all were Division I quality players, every one of them. We all wanted to read the scores every time a newspaper came out. How did Wheatley do? How did Wheatley do? Because they were throwing up 100 points on everybody. The only people they didn't score 100 points on were people that took the air out of the ball and just tried to stall it the whole game. We thought, okay, wait till they run into Houston Memorial. Just killed them. It wasn't even close. We had been watching them play in the Dr. Pepper tournament game before our game. And Eddie Owens, just this new sophomore that replaced all these outgoing megastars they had, we're all looking like, he's better than they were. They would run the entire game. But now their running was a different kind of running. Once they got you to running, you notice that they can't keep up with us. They're not running as fast as we are. That's called, they're saving it, aren't they? And then you notice that instead of running, they're whipping passes down the court. If they broke the press, instead of racing you to the other end, somebody was still waiting down there that did never come down.
They were told that unless you have a clear nobody, you can't see anybody layup, you don't shoot it, you come back out for it, and you wait for Wheatley to bring all 5 of their players down to the other end. And back then, Wheatley would spread out the whole court. They'd have 5 players all over the court, so they'd take you on 5-on-3 to get the ball back and running.
We wouldn't just go down there and jack it up. We'd wait on them to come down.
Stop.
And they got to play defense now. And they didn't really like that.
And we ran on everybody but Wheatley. But with Wheatley, they're expecting that. Instead, we changed it by putting Mercer in the middle and getting Mercer the ball, putting me and Andrew on the sides, and the Dunlap twins would just dribble and pass and keep the floor balanced. Once it got to Mercer, he would turn and find the open man.
And we ended their 90-something game winning streak.
Our third district game
But it wasn't no playoff game.
wasn't a playoff game. This is in district.
It was 6 overtimes.
Memorial had won 6 consecutive district championships,
Yeah, they
and they
did that.
were undefeated in 6 years of district play. They had won 2 state championships, and they were the last team to have a state championship before Wheatley started their 3-year run. So we knew it was a big game, and they played us tight. Their defensive style was in your face, man to man, the whole game.
Guy Lewis was there that night.
Yeah, Guy Lewis was there. In about overtime 2 or 3,
Yeah.
Jerry fouled out first, and Ronald was really keeping us in the game with his rebounding. Your guards shine as rebounders when the other team doesn't have guards that can rebound it. Some of theirs couldn't.
We knew we had to dig down. We knew we had to reach down and get something because we had lost 2 of our top guys.
Their postman, who was only 6'1", Jerry would always beat on the jump. But when Jerry fouled out and we started those overtimes with me jumping the center, I got out jumped by a 6'1" guy 6 times in a row.
What happened with them is, doing some of them overtime, they get the ball and just freeze it for so long, and we couldn't even get the ball. You know, they really didn't leave us a whole lot of time to do anything.
No.
Because if they missed, we get the rebound, and we really couldn't do nothing. Boom, we go into overtime.
We want to get the ball in the hands of Red or Andrew. Really weren't thinking of me as an offensive weapon. I think I did better service as a defensive player during those overtimes. But basically, Truitt just said, back off, let them hold it there. We'll play the last 30 seconds with them. They're playing it slow, but they try to drive the basket, and there was a foul. They're good free throw shooters, and they hit 2 of them, so they have a 2-point lead. And we've got to have 2, and we had 3 seconds. They fell back. So Truitt said, all right, who wants to take the shot? And I said, I do.
And Bobby had been working on that shot after practice every day. He had been, not just throwing it up there from half court. He was literally shooting it, to make it. And he even said, I can make that shot. I can make that shot.
And so the plan was to get the ball to Red and second pass to me, because Red would attract attention and I could be out of the play, but broke across about the free throw line, took 2 dribbles and put it up, kind of a running jump shot. Bucket goes through, place bedlam goes out. I'm buried by the team and pep squad cheerleaders. They're all there trying to pile in on me. The game's not over, but the referees looked up and the scorekeeper doesn't put the score up immediately. And the referees look up, it's not tied, it's 2 points favor Memorial. They start to walk off the court and Memorial starts celebrating. My mother wouldn't stand for that. She came out of the bleachers, she made it down to the bottom, got in Don Coleman's face and was giving him this, "You're not going to steal this game from us." And my brother and Rock Carr, Coach Carr, who was the official scorer, he said, "They're not. You need to get back in the stands." So my brother got her back, and Rock went back and got the referees and said, "Was that goal good?" "Yes." "I hadn't put it on the scoreboard." "Boom! It's tied." "Okay, let's go do this again." So. We got control of the ball because they left their basic strategy of holding it on us.
I think they just were deflated by your shot.
That's
what I think.
They made 2 points in the 6th, and we made 4 points in the 6th.
Yeah, but I just, like you said, it went away from the game plan because I asked you to think. I mean, when you think you're finna win and somebody just snatch it right off from under you, that takes a lot out of you. You know what I mean?
It was a big boost for us to beat Memorial. And it wasn't close when we went to Memorial. We handily defeated them the next time.
Yeah.
At the time, it was the longest high school game in history, six overtimes. For about 2 weeks, he had been moving me up to the high post, throwing passes to me, telling me to catch it over my head. And the kind of jump shooter I am when I'm outside, I'm a dribble to the shoulder, Jerry West style shooter. He didn't want that. He wanted me to have the ball over my head, fire it to Mercer. Over my head, 6'5" to 6'8", fire it to Mercer. Lob it if you have to, but for most situations, fake and fire. So he's always talking about these other teams taking the ball away, and the other teams are not doing that because we're not really running that in the game very often. But we're working on it in practice every day. Why are we working on it in practice for 2 weeks? And I'm not ever getting any game time exposure to it. In the Wheatley game, my position totally changes to that high post. Passes come into me, never bring the ball down.
Fire to Mercer's, he breaks across. He's not open. Wait for him to clear. Fake, fake. If no one's on you, shoot it. And that became very useful in the state tournament. But he built us to that, and we didn't know why. He knew what we would need to be doing differently because the other team scouts too. He said, we will not be calling timeouts to give instructions. We didn't need the coach on the floor with us. He prepared us long before that game. The only reason we went to the bench was to rest. Our focus and maturity of play began to bring out their immaturity of play.
More or less.
I got slugged by their star, and he got kicked out of the game. I thought at 4 minutes left in the game, they cannot catch us unless we just totally fumble.
I laid in middle school. They were throwing the ball up the leg, and when I saw the seconds ticking off,
Reporters were everywhere.
people was hanging up in the rafters.
Girlfriends trying to chase us, and
People.
we're
I
trying
never-
to
I
say
never
this is
saw
not
that.
the time.
I
you know?
never saw that before. You know, I'd heard about it, but I'm talking literally. People was hanging in the rafters. Ain't no feeling like it.
As a coach, there was no one better.
I've seen him hug every player. In the yearbook, 1972, you know how reporters want to tell the story of the ball team in their yearbook? It was easy for our team, put the picture on there, put the trophy on there. But you couldn't do that with 73. 7 in 2017, you put that there and everybody laughs. But instead, Truitt says, I want to write that page. And he wrote 5-6 sentences. One found on the scorebook or the record book, but something ought to be said about the character of young men that fight every game. They never quit. They never give up. They show their character day in, day out. So that's the team that you had representing you this year, and I'm proud of it. It helps that you've got that flag flying, and you have a terrible season like that, but that flag gives you credibility for quite a while in high school sport. Most educators and parents would agree that they want the coach that will build their sons into men.
As a player, you know, looking up in the rafters, seeing that banner and kind of hearing the stories, these guys that did it before us, and we're just trying to keep it going and get back to what they accomplished.
That winning tradition, the legacy of being the best of the best it's something special that sometimes campuses don't ever reach that, right?
Turning boys to men in a time when scouting is no longer ever able to carry that flag. All these other programs that may have been there to prepare the greatest generation, they're not there anymore. But sports is even bigger, and if you can weed out the bad coaches and multiply the tribe like Ronnie Truitt, we're in a better place as a country. His legacy is a middle school named after him. That's the highest honor Cy-Fair School District can give a coach. He was the All-State coach in basketball in 1971. He only coached 2 more seasons. And then he made the conscious choice. He had the choice as to whether to be promoted to become an athletic director. And he said, I don't want to go that direction in coaching. I want to stay in education. And he had gotten his master's and wanted to move into administration. He paid his dues as a sub-administrator and assistant principal, and finally got a school as principal at Jersey Village High School.
They are part of our history and our legacy of coming together and doing the best that you could do and bringing wins home. the water tower where you see the symbols of all the different sports of going to state. That's a very special thing, and it's an accolade. It's a badge of honor.
Kids will ask, like, they hear, hey, Cy-Fair won a national championship, and it doesn't really happen hardly at all. I mean, there's programs that'll never get there. So to be able to say, like, your alma mater, your school, your program has reached the highest, that's the standard, you know. So those guys doing that back then has set the bar for all these teams coming up.
He knew he had cancer. It was not public knowledge. When I got that call from Von Thornton, Coach Truitt's died, he wanted you to come down to his funeral. Walked in that Jersey Village auditorium, and every seat was filled with students, former students. All of his former players were honorary pallbearers. And I said, what text did he want me to preach from? They said, you just do whatever you want to do. He wanted you to preach, you preach. And so I preached on the cross. The final words of Jesus, it's finished. It means three things in the Greek. I paid all my bills. Debt's paid. It means to a general, the report from the battlefield, sir, is the war's been won. The battle's over. It's finished. And then thirdly, the report to the father from the son coming back from the fields where he's been working all day. Dad, the work's done. It's all over. It's finished. And I said, that's the gospel that informed his life, informs my life, and we challenge you that it should inform your life as well. Can you say, I have finished the race and achieved the prize that has been laid up for you? And Ronnie Truitt knew that from the time he was praying with his grandmother, that starts with his faith in Christ.